Hey guys, what's going on? Counterspell Hater here, back with another video. We're gonna be doing something a little more stress-free. Uh, Anyways, we're gonna be doing some custom commander. I've been thinking about maybe doing this as like secondary content. So let's get to it. Now, uh, the first image here I'm about to show you, like right now, is not mine. This is not mine. Lurr, King of Predation, is not mine. It belongs to, I think, Maria Trepalina. I definitely butchered that. I'm sorry. I found this on. This can be found on cards on mtgcardsmith.com. So credit to Maria for making this card, because this is the card we're showcasing in this video. Of custom characters. So let's get started into it. So what is it? So for, as you can see, a black, blue, red, and green, we have legendary creature 8 demon. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may put a plus counter on that creature. Creatures you control plus counters have menace and can't block. Whenever creature you control dies, draw a card for each counter on that creature. So what are we going to be doing? Obviously, we're going to be putting a lot of +1/+1 counters on our creatures. I didn't really think about utilizing the menace, but definitely the card draw and the whole creature part and sacrifice. So since we have 4 colors available to us, we've got a pretty good canvas. So this could be pretty easy to build. So start off, we have the mimeoplasm. 2 generic of black and green and blue for legendary creature ooze. Enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 creature cards from graveyards. If you do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards with additional number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the power of the other card. So that's kind of one of our substitutes. The next is Animar Soul of Elements. Blue, red, and green for a legendary elemental. Protection from white and from black, meaning any Orzhov stuff can't touch it. Things like that. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Animar Soul of Elements. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, 1 generic less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on Animar. So since we're casting a lot of creature spells, they're going to become cheaper and cheaper to cast as Animar gets more +1/+1 counters. And it's going to get to a point where our stuff is incredibly cheap, and if Animar dies, we're going to draw a lot of cards. Next, we have Gyre, Master of the Ravenous. Black and red for legendary creature human shaman. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Gyre, Master of the Ravenous, 1/1. So we're going to be sacrificing stuff along with casting it. So that will help with the mimeoplasm. Alright, so first we have Chasm Shulker. Chasm Shulker up here as like another fourth card. Anyways, so 2 generic and a blue for a squid horror. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Chasm Shulker. When it dies, create X. 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with unlock, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Chasm Shulker. So as stuff is dying, and if we have our commander out, this is going to be getting bigger because we're going to be drawing cards. And this, with menace and how many cards we're drawing, is going to be insane. Like 2 creatures to block, like possibly a 30/30. Is outright absurd, and not to mention all the tokens it could create when it dies. Next, we have another legendary creature, Mormir Vig, Simic Visionary. For 3 generic, we have green, and a green and blue, we have an elf wizard. Whenever you play a green creature spell, you may search your library for a creature card and reveal it. If you do, shuffle your library and put the card on top of it. When you play a blue creature spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature, put that card into your hand. So since we're casting a lot of green and blue creature spells, we're definitely going to be triggering off Mormir Vig. Simic Visionary, which will then get us more creatures, allowing us to keep going. Kefnet the Mindful, 2 generic and a blue for legendary creature god, flying indestructible 5/5. Can't attack or block unless we have 7 or more cards in hand. Well, we're definitely going to be having way more than 7. And if we needed to, for 3 generic and a blue, we can draw a card, then return a land we control to its owner's hand. That is if it was needed, which it probably won't be. Then we have Tanazir Quandrix. 3 generic and a green and a blue for legendary creature Elder Dragon, flying trample when it enters the battlefield. Double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. That's gonna help you draw a lot more cards when that creature dies, because you're gonna be drawing double the amount of cards you would be because the counters have been doubled. Not to mention that's more prime toughness. And then when he attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir Quandrix's power and toughness until the end of turn. So as he gets bigger and bigger and we establish more of an army, that army is gonna become as big as he is, which could be very well terrifying. Manifestation Sage. Hybrid green blue, hybrid green blue, hybrid green blue, and hybrid green blue. Human Wizard 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X ++ counters on it. Rex the number of cards in your hand. Well, we're gonna have a lot of cards in our hand thanks to our commander. So this is going to make a big fractal creature token. Definitely. Next is Experiment Crash, I think. 2 generic, double green, double blue for a legendary Ooze mutant. 4/6. Has all activated abilities of each other creature with a ++ counter on it, and you can tap it to put a ++ counter for your creature. So this means if a creature has like so that'd be like something like Kefnet, and others that like use mana to tap themselves to then or just tap in general. So this guy will definitely have all of those abilities. Master Biomancer is going to be ridiculous. Why? Because for 2 generic, green and blue, we have an Alpha Wizard. 2/4. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a number of additional ++ counters on it equal to Master Biomancer's power, and as a mutant in addition to its other types. So if Master Biomancer starts getting big, all of our stuff is going to be entering in with an additional number of ++ counters equal to Master Biomancer's power. And already alone, if our commander is up, that's going to be 3 ++ counters. Actually 4, considering our commander gives them ++ counters when they are cast. Next we have Lore Scale Quaddle. 1 generic, 1 green, 1 blue for a snake. It says whenever you draw a card, you may put a ++ counter on Lore Scale Quaddle 2/2. Same deal with like Chasm Shulker, except it doesn't create tokens, but still gonna get really big, really fast. Well, it's for Ravenous. 2 generic, double green for Lizard, Devour 1. It's this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with that many ++ counters on it. 2/2. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional X +1/+ counters on it. Where X is the number of ++ counters on Bloodsport Ravenous. So this not only divides creatures, which is gonna draw us a bunch of cards, but it's getting bigger and it's making our stuff bigger as it enters, which is gonna allow us to draw more cards as those things die. And it just snowballs into itself. Throw Moloch, the Sensational Bolt. 3 generic, the red and the green for a legendary creature Helion. Devour X, where X is the number of creatures devoured this way. As this enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with X ++ counter for each of those creatures. This is 0/0. So that means however many that this creature will get a number of +1/+1/+1 counters equal to the number of creatures you sacrifice squared. So if you sacrifice 3 creatures, you're getting 9 ++ counters. Not to mention actually an additional one of those because of Lurr, King of Predation, being our commander. So like 3 creature sacrifice, that's 10 plus encounters. 20 creature sacrifice, that's like 401. Praise your dragon for generic and double red for dragon 4/4 flying devour 2. As this enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with twice that many plus counters on it. So you sacrifice 1 creature, you get 2 plus counters on this. Actually 3 if you have your commander out. If you sacrifice 4 creatures, then that's 9 plus counters. 10 creatures, that's like 21 because of your commander. It gives you the additional 1 to this creature when it's cast. When it attacks, it deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of plus counters on it. So if it has a lot of plus counters on it, it's going to deal a lot of damage when it attacks. Not to mention when it actually hits. Then there's Skull Mulcher. 4 generic and a green for creature elemental for 3. Devour 1. We already know what that does. Anyways, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature it devoured. So along with the death triggers from our commander. God. Sorry about that. Which would give us, which would draw us cards for each possible counter on that was on the creature that Skull Mulcher here devoured. We would also get like an additional card for each creature Skull Mulcher devoured, and a possible counter on this, if that makes sense. Mycolith. 3 generic, and double green for a fungus 4/4. Devour 2, we already know what that does. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a possible counter. Put a 1/1 green supplement creature token onto the battlefield for each possible counter on Mycolith. So this is going to help us create an army along with sacrifice stuff to draw cards. And when this dies, it's probably gonna draw us a whole bunch more cards. I'm not going to be surprised if this deck accidentally mills itself out a bunch because of how many cards it's drawing. But anyways, we're gonna be creating an army with this and sacrificing stuff to draw cards. Talkfiend, 5 generic and a black for elemental 4/4 with Devour 2. When it comes into play, target player discard a card for each creature devoured. So then along with us drawing cards, our opponent is going to be discarding cards, the target player actually. So if we wanted to, that could be us. Then we have Ravenous Theorem. 5 generic and double green. For a 3/3 beast, Devour 3. This is a creature enters the battlefield. You may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with 3 times that many plus counters on it. So you sacrifice 3 creatures, you get 9 plus counters on this. Actually 10, concerning our commander once again gives this creature a plus counter when it is cast. When Ravenous Theorem enters the battlefield, it deals X damage divided as you choose among up to X creatures, X target creatures, where X is its power. So if this thing is like a 13, then you can target X creatures and divide up like 13 damage amongst those creatures. And then each of those creatures deals damage equal to its power to Ravenous Theorem, meaning this can die and draw you a bunch of cards. Big surprise. Branching Evolution. 2 generic and a green because the card draw wasn't enough, so we're going to double the counters. Yeah, so the official text is it's an enchantment with if 1 or more plus counters would be put on a creature you control, twice as many plus counters are put on that creature instead. So instead of our commander putting just a plus counter on any creature we cast, he puts 2 because of Branching Evolution being out, if we have it out. And we definitely want to. And this could still end up killing us because we will be drawing so many cards that eventually, at such a fast rate that eventually we will have drawn too much and die of drawing from an empty library. So keep that in mind. That's kind of the only problem with this. Anyways, we have Dragon Broodmother, 2 generic triple red and singular green for Dragon 4/4 flying. At the beginning of each upkeep, put a 1/1 red and green dragon creature token with flying and devour 2 into play. As the token comes into play, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. It comes into play with twice that many plus counters on it. So we're gonna just keep on sacrificing a bunch of stuff and drawing a bunch of cards. Next we have Marrow Chomper. 3 generic, black and green for Zombie Lizard with Devour 2. 3/3. When it comes to play, you gain life for each creature you devour. So that's something to keep us alive in case we're falling behind or losing too much life, whatever have you. Definitely can't save you from infect or mill, unfortunately. Rip. Death's Presence, though, can just speed up the process of which you're gonna die of drawing from an empty library, but whatever. Because for 5 generic and a green, we've got an enchantment that says whenever a creature you control dies, put X plus multiple counters on target creature you control versus the power of that creature that died. So along with drawing cards, we're going to make our stuff more powerful. So when that thing dies, it's just going to keep snowballing, and something's eventually, and like a 1/1's eventually going to end up like the most monstrous creature on our board. Funny. Anyways, Garland Thrynax. Black, red, and green for Lizard 2/2. Sacrifice creature, put a counter on it. Pretty simple, don't need to explain much. Let's move on. Psychosis Crawler, 5 generic for an artifact creature horror. Something to do with all those cards at once because its power toughness are each equal to the number of cards in our hand. Also +1, considering our commander will be giving it a plus counter. And whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So if we have this out, our opponent's actually going to start dying pretty quick. So, considering we might be drawing like 10, 15, maybe even like 30 cards a turn. I don't know. Altered Dementia, if that doesn't work, we can mill our opponents because of the sheer power of our creatures. Because for 2 generic, we have an artifact that says sacrifice a creature. The target player puts the number of cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. So since we have like jacked creatures like 13/13s or like eventually 20/20s, whatever have you, like monstrous creatures, we can start sacrificing them, draw cards within the process, and milling our opponent for a whole bunch at the same time. So we can, so essentially this can give us a chance at outracing our death that we brought upon ourselves. And to help us in the early game, we have Viscera Seer, or just to describe one of the billion cards you're going to be drawing, because that's going to matter when you draw like 20 cards and you're scrying only one of them. Anyways, for single black, we have Vampire Wizard 1/1, says sacrifice your creature, scry 1. Look at the top card of your library, you may put that card on the bottom of your library. So that's Viscera Seer for you if you need it in the early game, which you might. 2 generic and a black for Wolf Strider. Horror 3/2. When enters battlefield, create no 1 white go creature token. Sacrifice another creature, scry 1. So it's just like Viscera Seer, except it comes back thanks to Escape, because Escape was a busted mechanic in Theros Beyond Death. If you haven't seen it, you should see some Theros Beyond Death videos that I have not done, but other YouTubers probably have. But anyways, if you don't know what Escape is, well, I'm going to tell you right now. It's for 3. It's the cost you can pay to get something back from the graveyard in Theros Beyond Death. In this case, Escape cost is, for Wolf Strider here, is 3 generic, double black, exile 4 other cards from your graveyard. And then you get to cast this. Then it escapes with 2 ++ counters on it. So since we cast it via Escape, it gets those 2 ++ counters. And then an additional one if our commander is out. So there's that. So this thing can keep coming back, exiling stuff we don't need, drawing us more and more cards, and helping us scry, I guess. But eventually we won't need that. Plague Maw Beast. 3 generic and double green for 4/3 beast that says tap sacrifice a creature. Proliferate. You choose any number of parents and or players with counters on them, then give each another counter of the kind already there. This was greatly used during Phyrexian. It's dirty infect. Let me tell you. Well, I won't, because we already know what infect does, and if you don't, just go watch some videos and you'll find out what it can do. Hint, it's how you lose friends. Anyways, so along with sacrificing creatures, we're making our stuff bigger and possibly giving our opponents infect and losing friends in the process. Just don't play infect. Anyways, what you should play is Master Crawl Death Priest. 3 generic and a black and a green for an insect shaman, legendary creature, flying 2/2. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, plus to counter on each creature you control. So along with the stuff we're sacrificing and drawing from, we're also getting plus counters on our creatures, which is then resulting in them in getting bigger. And so when they die, we draw even more cards. Amazing! And then we have Corpsejack Menace, because if we don't have branching evolution, we have this. 2 generic and a black and a green for not a legendary creature, god. Fungus 4/4. If one or more plus cards would be placed on a creature you control, twice as many plus cards are placed on it instead. So if we have this branching evolution out, then everything is going to be getting 4 times as many plus cards, which is going to be terrifying on our opponent's side. Well, or our side, depending on the way you look at it. Then we have Goo Color Gisa. Finally, like a creature, something to utilize this immense power and toughness. How? For 3 generic and double black, we have legendary creature you can be wizard 3/4. For black, you can tap it, sacrifice another creature, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens on the battlefield where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So since our stuff is going to be really big, you can start making an army of zombies by sacrificing that and drawing a bunch of cards in the process for sacrificing it. If our commander's out, because it's going to die, and then for each counter on that creature, it's going to draw us a card because of our commander. Then we have Ooze Garden. 1 generic and a green enchantment. 1 generic and a green, you sacrifice a non-ooze creature and put an XX green ooze creature token into play where X is the sacrifice creature's power. Play this ability only anytime you can play a sorcery. So that'd be only on your turn, unless you have something that says you can play into the sorceries as though sorceries as though they were instants, in which case I guess that would then mean you could do this at any time. I don't know. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you can essentially create copies of your stuff. It's just they have no abilities. They have the same toughness, and you're just drawing more cards. Next we have Doubling Season. To go in sync with like a whole bunch of everything else. And for the 4 generic and a green, if you didn't already know, it's an enchantment that says if an effect would put 1 or more tokens onto the battlefield under your control, it puts twice that many of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. If an effect would place 1 or more counters on a permanent you control, it places twice that many of those counters on that permanent instead. So now, in combination with Branching Evolution and Corpsejack Menace, everything is getting 6 times as many plus counters on it, meaning that our commander alone can give something 6 plus counters, and we're creating twice as many tokens, meaning that Gisa, that if we sacrifice like a 16/16 to Gisa, to Goo Color Gisa, then we're going to be creating 32 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Fun! All in all, Doubling Season is once again broken. Fane the Broker. 2 generic and a black for legendary creature you will walk 3/3. Tap, sacrifice a creature, put 2 plus counters on target creature. Tap, remove a counter from a creature you control. Create a treasure token. This can actually help us avoid like milling out completely. Whoops. and also give us mana when we need it. And then you can tap, sacrifice an artifact, create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. So this can help us kind of create an army, create a bunch of mana. Also sacrifice creatures to draw us cards and put 2/2 counters on something. And for a free generic and a black, we can untap Feign the Broker. Pretty nice. Next we have Rezketh the Foul-Blooded. 5 generic and triple black for legendary creature demon. Flying Trample, 8/8. Pay 2 life. Sacrifice another creature. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand. Then shuffle your library. I wonder what that's going to do to us, except for... Oh yeah, that's right. Draw a bunch of cards, get us more of what we want. And also, it's just ridiculous at this point. Not to mention, an 8/8 in this deck is pretty busted because of what we're doing. And next we have the Oslos, as if everything wasn't enough. We had this from Ikoria. If you don't remember what Oslos could do, you should watch some videos. Anyways, whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, you put those counters on the Oslos. It gets even better or worse depending on how you look at it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozlith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozlith onto target creature. So if something really big died with a lot plus one counters on it, it's gonna go onto the Ozlith instead of just going into nowhere. Which means our stuff is gonna continuously get bigger and bigger. And we're gonna just keep on drawing cards. And if we, for some reason, don't want all these counters just being spread out, we can put them on this guy by playing him, Galloping Lizard. 3 generic, a green and blue for a frog lizard with trample, 3/3. Haven't seen it? Well, now you have. You've seen nearly everything, but not really, considering this is magic. Anyways, that doesn't matter, but what matters is when this enters the battlefield, you may remove any number of plus cards from among creatures you control. Because, well, card draw, I guess. If you do, put twice that many plus cards on Galloping Lizard, which, why? Your stuff is already super big. You probably don't need to draw that many cards. But Civic Ascendancy, with this out, you don't really need to worry about milling out. Because for green and blue, we have an enchantment that says 1 generic or green and blue can put a plus counter on target creature. Whenever one of our plus counters are put on creature you control, put that many growth counters on Civic Ascendancy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Civic Ascendancy has 20 more growth counters on it, you win the game. That's going to be pretty dang easy, considering what we are doing in this deck. Next, we have Rosalek. Rolesque. Apex Hybrid. 2 generic, double green, and blue for legendary creature human mutants, flying trample, 4/5. When it enters the battlefield, put 2 plus counters on another creature you control. When it dies, proliferate, then proliferate again. So that means you choose any number of current inner players, give them each another counter of each kind already there, then do it again. So that's more plus one counters on everyone. And we have Pine Speaker Xanafar. Oh boy. This was used in a very broken deck that rolled around in Theros Beyond Death. Actually, no, I take that back. That was in Theorem. Anyways, it was broken. Anyways, 2 generic, green and blue, for legendary creature, elf, who's wizard. I have this myself. 2/4. Tap, sacrifice another creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Put that card into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only anytime you cast a sorcery. One of my favorite cards. It's been with me for a pretty long time. I kind of grew up with it. I had a broken deck in Standard. It was a lot of fun. Next we have Renegade Traces. 1 generic and double green for Beast Mutant, 3/2 evolve. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a plus counter on this creature. Ugh. when Renegade Traces evolves, put +1 puzzle counter on each creature you control, puzzle counter on it. As if all the puzzle counters we had on all our creatures weren't enough, we can keep doing this if there isn't already something that's bigger than this, which there probably will be, but eventually it gets to a point where finding something bigger than that maybe will be impossible. Anyways, Horror Reef Ooze. 2 generic and then a green for creature ooze. Whenever it enters the battlefield, put a pulsable counter on target creature control. It's 2/2. Whenever it attacks, you put a pulsable counter on each attacking creature with a pulsable counter on it. So, if we go to swing with all of our creatures with all their pulsable counters on them, then they're going to get even more pulsable counters, so that when they die, they're going to draw that many more cards. Fun. Lurr, all ingesting. This is from Computer Legends. 5 generic and green for legendary creature ooze. 0/0. Slurk, all ingesting enters about 55 plus pulsable counters on it. Actually, an additional 1 if we have our commander out, which hopefully we do. And whenever Slurk or another creature you control dies, if it had a pulsable counter on it, put a pulsable counter on each creature you control. That has a pulsable counter on it. Partner we don't need to worry about. But anyways, long and short of it, since our stuff is going to be dying, we're going to be putting pulsable counters on stuff that is lit that has pulsable counters on it. Fun. So that's even more cards for when those creatures dies. Splitting Slime. 3 generic and double green for creature ooze. 4 generic and double green for monstrosity 3. This is 3/3 by default. This creature isn't monstrous, but 3 pulsable counters on it, and then it becomes monstrous. When it becomes monstrous, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of Splitting Slime. The token has no counters on it and isn't monstrous. Meaning this can split in like infinitely and keep going and keep drawing us like a whole bunch of cards. The first time, because when we cast it, our commander will have been out by then. So then it'll draw us 4 when it dies, and then the rest of the wave will be getting like 3 cards for when they die because of the monstrosity. But still pretty nice. Just basically a card that doesn't die. And we'll keep drawing his cards. And then there's Pelt Collector, green. Just singular green for an elf warrior 1/1. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, if that creature's power is greater than Pelt Collector's, put a possible counter on Pelt Collector. As long as 3 or more possible counters on it, it has trample. So a lot of stuff is going to be dying. This is going to be getting bigger and bigger, and it's definitely going to have trample because it's definitely going to have more than 3 possible counters on it. I mean, let's be honest. Great turn 1 though. I'm good. Morchessa, the Black Rose. 1 generic, a blue, a black, and a red. Legendary creature human wizard to Theorem. Whenever this creature attacks the player with the most life or tied with the most life, both will counter it. Other creatures you control have Theorem, so you're getting even more pulsing counters on them. So this is for those annoying white players at the table who just spend their whole game just gaining all that life. So this is a 3/3, by the way. Whenever a creature you control pulls a counter on it dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control be in the next end step. So that means our creatures now never ever die unless you exile them. If Morchessa is out. And with how much card draw we have, she will probably be out. So great, now our stuff just cannot die, and we're just gonna draw cards forever. Next we have Crest, the Blood Braided. 2 generic, black, red, and green for electric creature warrior. Whenever another creature is put into a graveyard from play, so that's any creature on any side of the battlefield. Doesn't matter. And it has to be on a non-token because tokens are not put into the graveyard. So you may put X counters on Crest of the Blood Braided, which is that creature's power. So Crest here is going to be getting very, very big, very, very quick. So when he dies, he's going to be drawing us a lot of cards. until then, he's just gonna be getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just not gonna stop. And their opponent's spontaneously going to die out of nowhere eventually. Colonian Hydra, because we didn't have enough counters? Question mark. 3 generic and double green Hydra, trample, 0/0, enters battlefield 4 plus counters on it. When it attacks, double number of plus counters on each creature you control. So if your opponent's life total isn't dust yet, you have this for some reason. Moving on, we have Gyre Sage. I decided I'd finally try and incorporate mana in some way. And so then I found this. 1 generic and a green for evolve. And well enough to want to. Whenever a creature enters battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power to this, well, I already explained it. But tap, add a green to your mana pool for each plus counter on Gyre Sage. So we're going to be getting a lot of mana out of this, because there's going to be a sheer amount of plus counters on this. So that's going to be cool. Next, we move on to the non-basic land cards. We have Myriad Landscape enters battlefield tapped, and then you can tap it for a colorless, and then for 2 generic, you can tap it and sacrifice it. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type. Put them onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. So that's a nice ramp. Blighted Woodland taps for a colorless, or for 3 generic and a green, you can tap it, sacrifice it, and search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Isolated Watchtower. You can tap it to add a colorless mana, or for 2 generic, you can tap it, scry 1, which is without your draws if you really do need it that much. And then you may reveal the top card of your library. If a basic land card is revealed this way, put it onto battlefield. Activate this ability only if opponent controls at least 2 or more lands than you. Since I didn't put much ramp in this deck, besides like the non-basics land stuff you see here, this might actually be the case. In which case, that's fine. Reliquary Tire allows us to have no maximum hand size and taps for colorless. So that's nice, so we don't have to discard, really, if you play a turn 1. Mosswort Bridge Hideaway. There's battlefield, taps. When it does, you look at the top 4 cards of your library. Exile 1 of them face down, put the rest on the bottom of your library. You can tap it to add a green to your mana pool, or for green, you can tap it. And then you may play the exile card without paying its mana cost if creatures you control have total power 10 or greater. You know, for some reason, call me insane, but I think we're actually going to have way more than what's needed. I know it sounds crazy, but Spine Rock Mole, same thing, same deal with Hideaway, tap, except this is red. Tap, add red mana to your mana pool, or red, you can tap this, and you may play the exile card without paying its mana cost if an opponent was still 7 more damage this turn. I know this sounds also insane, but I think we're doing more than 7 damage. I know it sounds crazy, but for some reason I think we can do this. And then Shoulder Isle, because Hideaway. Also, tap, add blue mana to your mana pool. And blue mana, you can tap it and you may play the remove card without paying. Now, at the time this sprint, it said remove the card from the game. And you may play the remove card without paying its mana cost if the library has 20 more or fewer cards in it. Now, for whatever reason, I know this also sounds insane on top of everything else, but I think we are gonna have less than 20 cards. Just saying. I know this doesn't seem possible, but what is possible is Cabal Coffers. It's always been possible because for 2 generic, you can tap it and add a black mana to your mana pool for each swamp you control. And it doesn't matter if it's basic or not. Next, we have Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and an iconic staple. These two, if you don't know, go hand in hand because the legendary land here, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, makes each land a swamp in addition to its other types. So then your Cabal Coffers is tapping for way more. And then we have Cabal Stronghold, which tap it for a colorless, or you can 3 generic and tap it for each basic swamp you control. Now the difference is that there are basic lands and non-basic lands. So if you have non-basic swamp, so like it just says land, and then you say swamp, then but it doesn't say basic, then that won't count towards Cabal Stronghold. Now, if you have a bunch of basic lands, then Cabal Stronghold will count those lands because of Herbal Choking Shotgun. Just saying, that's the difference between Cabal Coffers and Cabal Stronghold. Raging Ravine. Because our lands needed to be creatures that could get full cards. Enters battlefield tap it, add red or green to your mana pool. 2 generic red or green. Until in a turn, this becomes a 3/3 and red and green elemental creature with whenever this creature attacks with plus con. It's still a land. So this is also can become a creature that gets bigger and bigger. Now, our commander does not affect this because it doesn't enter in as a creature for the first time, or when it becomes a creature, since it's not being cast but being played. But this can get bigger and bigger, and if this eventually dies as a creature, then this can also draw us cards. Goes kind of good along with the deck. Volrath Stronghold. A giant land, you can tap it, add 1 color to your mana pool, or for 1 generic and a black, you can tap it, put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. So, if our stuff is dying, we can just put it up back on the top of our library like nothing ever happened. Like we're just gonna draw it. Phyrexian Tower, you can tap it for colors, close your land, you can tap it, sacrifice creature, add double black, so sacrificing creatures, so drawing cards if our commander is out, and if that creature had a bunch of plus counters on it, and also adding this mana that we may need in the early game. Then we have Mirren, the Moaning Well, a giant land. You tap it, add a colors to your mana pool, or 3 generic, you can tap it, sacrifice creature, you gain like little sacrifice creature toughness. So this can definitely help us in the late game, or if we're facing off against like red commander or something like that. If we're falling behind in life, definitely can't help us in the case of infect. I'll just let you know that, or commander damage. And then you have like your balance of mountains, swamps, forests, and islands. So I think like 8 or so. 9, I don't know. Anyways, let me do some quick math here. So he's 6, 5 by 4. That's all right. So 9 of each base of those basic lands. So 9 mountains, 9 forests, 9 swamps, 9 islands, I think. Anyways, all in all, this is a very powerful deck. Again, credit to Maria Trepalina. I don't think I said that right. You can find cards like these, like for custom commander, on mtgcardsmith.com. It's a really great site. Go check them out. I think I'll put a link into the description. And don't forget to utilize the menace, but also don't forget that you won't be able to block because your creatures will have plus counters on them, which kind of balances this out, unfortunately. And this can actually, as I've mentioned a lot in this video, can end up killing you because of how many cards you're drawing. So, and if you don't have any cards in your deck, then you're just going to die if you go to draw. But other than that, you're going to be making big creatures, so you may knock out your opponent before then. So definitely go check stuff with Cardsmith out. Thanks once again to Maria Trepalina. This has been a great episode. This is just what I would do for this commander deck. This is sort of a guideline video. So this has been the guidelines for Lurr, King of Predation. Hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to share this video. Hit the notification bell. Thank you to all who are supporting me. And I will see you in the next video. Counterspell Hater out.